Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod with Anis Bennaceur. Anis is co-founder and CEO at Attention. We're going to talk about sales AI today. This podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. That's my podcasting company. If you want to scale and monetize your podcast, you can go to podfire.com. Anis, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and Attention.
Thank you. Thank you. And very excited to be here. So I'm Anis Bennaceur. I'm French Tunisian, and I live in New York City. I am the founder and CEO of Attention. So a little bit more about my background. I studied math and statistics in France and then did master's in business. I started out in investment banking because that was the cool thing to do at the time in 2012. Started out there, learned how to work very hard, normalize 100-hour weeks, working weekends, and that made me a beast. And from there, I realized that I would, just do a few years and move on to being an entrepreneur. Completely randomly, a friend of mine asked me one summer, hey, I just met the founders of Tinder. This is their new app. It was, a 6-month-old startup at the time. Nobody had heard of it. Do you want to work with us directly with the founders on growing this app in France? And so at the time, I took a very risky bet, which was leave my job in banking and go work for a tiny startup that no one had heard of. But it was very exciting, right? I got the chance for over a year and a half to not only work with a friend of mine, but also work directly with the founders of Tinder and see the hyper growth of that startup, going to millions of users and being an absolute home run. That also got me closer to the tech world, and to understanding how to do things that don't scale in growth. And witnessing the early success of the Tinder founders, that made me want to be a founder myself. So fast forward to 2015, I moved to New York and started a startup called Mixer, which was a professional network for creatives. I bootstrapped it, grew it to tens of thousands of users with very little resources, and that made me an incredible growth hacker over the years. I ran that business for about 6 years and sold it in 2021. Took some time off, and as I was running Mixer, I had the idea of starting Attention AI. It was by running a sales team, realizing that our sales force was always empty, realizing that it was very painful to train and coach your reps, that I realized that there was a lot that you could do by recording conversations and creating some efficiencies throughout the process, especially with AI. And I very well remember in July of 2020, waking up one day, seeing that GPT-3 came out, and I was very much amazed by it. And more interestingly, around that exact same summer, I met my biggest competitor at the time, the founder of a startup called Swipecast. His name is Matthias Wickenberg. He was the CTO of it. We grabbed coffee despite being competitors. We realized that we liked each other a lot, but also that we might want to start a next startup together. So fast forward to a year later, we started Attention together. So 2 competitors becoming allies. And we knew that there was something huge should be done with AI that no one in the space was really leveraging. We kind of held this secret for about a little over a year. And we leveraged this to build Attention.
Do you think you'll reach Tinder-like success one day?
So that is a great question. Obviously, Tinder is a B2C business model, and we're B2B. Hopefully, we'll reach a higher level of success. I'm very confident about it. We'll just be very much known in the business world rather than the consumer world.
So that means $10+ billion valuation or something like
Exactly, yeah. In my opinion, if we haven't reached that, we'll be a failure.
Interesting. Let's start with your background. I'm curious about the shift from M&A and uh, investment banking world to growth and
Yeah,
marketing and sales. How did that happen?
yeah, that's a great question. So, for starters, I always knew I was gonna be an entrepreneur actually. So even in my teenage years, like a lot of founders today, I was already making money, through one way or another, finding ways to monetize whatever I could do. At the time, it was finding ways to sell bootleg video games downloaded from the Wares world to all my friends in high school, and then learning how to edit on Adobe Premiere to make videos and sell those videos to kids in my class, like field trip videos that were edited. There were a lot of ways. I very quickly understood how to make money very quickly by um, leveraging some arbitrage opportunity, right? So then as I graduated from university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but everyone was, or at least the top kids in our class were going to investment banking. So I first did internships there and realized that it was a great way to start your career because you could do anything that you wanted afterwards, but also B, it made you just become a beast at work, right? You just can work very late hours, you get to work weekends. Um, and I'm saying you get to work weekends because throughout the rest of my career, that really made me a machine at work, right? So um, at that time, I realized a few things in investment banking. I very much had a hacker mindset. I already was a hacker in my teenage years. I learned how to code by myself. I learned how to hack systems by myself. But also throughout investment banking, there was some fight for survival kind of thing where if you could get your work done as quickly as possible, but also have it as clean as possible, you are going to survive and make it through time. And I very much remember that there were a lot of processes that were, very inefficient. And instead of just doing whatever I was asked to do, instead I would just spend, let's say, a weekend to build a VBA macro that would automate a lot of my work later on just by clicking a button, right? And I kept that secret for a bit. And towards the end, I shared this with my managing directors and executive directors and showed them the macros that I built. And they were blown away, right? They asked me to share this with the team. And that kind of like hacker mindset, I had it throughout my whole journey in banking. So I kind of knew that I was more or less destined for something else. And talking with, the guys over at Tinder and who were looking for people in growth, I just had very much that scrappy mindset. And whenever I shared ideas with them about, um, how we could grow the app across campuses and across different places, they loved all the ideas that I shared, right? And that again was just kind of having that scrappy growth mindset that could apply into everything, but also a really good growth person is someone who tends to be a little lazy, right? You don't want to take the long, manual, painful road. You'll always try to find systems that you can hack to get things done faster. And just, I saw that just transition very well for me.
Did you often clash with the European culture that is a bit more laid back vs your Silicon Valley mind stuff?
Um, so not really, actually, not really. That was never too much of an issue, and I would say that, when you go through investment banking, you're not that laid back. You're actually very much on top of everything and work very hard. So there was no clash. And even when I moved to New York in 2015 and started up Mixer, there wasn't much of a clash. Obviously, I was bootstrapping a business with my co-founder, Cody at the time, and we worked very well together. But yeah, everything was always very smooth.
What was the outcome of Mixer, and are you satisfied with it?
Um, as a first startup, it wasn't too bad of of an outcome. I got lucky and sold it to a crypto startup right at the peak of the NFT craze. So we had we had grown a one of the biggest professional networks for creatives. We were quite ahead of our time, right? We started that in 2015. Um, Most of the world started, realizing the real value of the creator network, the creator economy in 2018, 2019. So we were really ahead of our time, but we grew a very, very robust network of creatives. But then I started getting bored with it, and also the 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 revenue growth was good the first years, and then it flatlined, and um, it didn't grow. It wasn't something that was really venture scalable, in a way. And I really had different ambitions for what I wanted to do next, right? For me, the way I view things is you start your first startup like you're buying your first car. You bump it everywhere, you crash it a little bit, but then you'll get a really nice car for your second car, and you'll be a lot more careful, but as you know how to drive it a lot better, right? So moving on to attention, I knew all of the main mistakes that I could avoid. And that's what really allowed us to go from zero to $1 million in revenue in ARR in right under 12 months, exactly 11 months, because I knew all the recipes for success from day one.
And why sales for that new startup? Why did you get so fascinated with sales?
Yeah, great question. As I scaled, so when I ran Mixer, we initially were doing B2C subscriptions because that's also like the world that I came from, right? Like Tinder. So we very quickly scaled our B2C subscriptions with Mixer. And over time, I saw that there was a way also to drive revenue through the B2B subscriptions too, right? Selling job postings to companies. And so I started hiring a first head of sales, and then like a couple sales reps. And we were selling subscriptions. That head of sales helped me and taught me about, at the time, setting up Salesforce, running a discovery call and a demo, and just it just very much fascinated me how all of this was getting run, but also how much of the inefficiencies I was noticing as, a growth hacker in a way. So I was trying to connect things together, trying to capture already recordings from calls, figuring out what I could do with these transcripts. But also, as sometimes I would be sitting next to one of the salespeople and be telling them, whispering what they should be saying. Um, and I thought that there was probably a way that you could accomplish that with AI, right? Real-time suggestions, or at least tell them after the call, this is automatically what you should be doing for your next meeting. Um, and so that was where I saw a lot of, that was kind of where I saw a lot of opportunity. I was very much interested in also tackling that. And at the end of the day, let's be honest, right? Like sales has the biggest budgets, sales teams that have the biggest budgets at companies, right? They are the ones who will very quickly unlock, discretionary spending for something that will help them drive ROI. And I knew that as much as my last startup for B2B was more of a nice to have, if I was able to unlock product market fit for a sales tech product, it was going to be a must-have.
So where do you want to scale that one? Because for now, it summarizes our conversation, tells us what I'm saying wrong, probably if you're not speaking enough, for example. It gives me insights to sell better, basically. There's competition in that, as you obviously know, with Gong and all of this. Maybe first, if you could tell us about your features, how you're distinguishing yourself, and then where you want to bring this one in 5 to 10 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. So attention in a way is very, I know that you mentioned one of our, the legacy incumbents in the space there, um, that built a great business, by the way, but we're very much different, right? The way we view it is that just very much similar to some of the other players in the space, we'll capture the recordings and the transcripts, but that's a commodity today. What really matters is the ability for you to leverage those recordings to do the right things. So, first of all, the biggest pain point for any sales team is to have your CRM up to date, right? And so we're crushing any company in the space when it comes to that. We'll capture your recordings, we'll autofill every single CRM field automatically as soon as the call ends with the utmost accuracy. As easy as that. So, any RevOps leader, any CRO, any VP sales, you need to actually forecast, you need to go into your reports and understand what's happening with your deals. You'll have more accuracy than ever to be understanding what's happening within your deals. For reps, will also help them, draft their follow-up emails and get all sorts of insights around the risks of the deals and the action items and so on. For frontline managers and sales leaders, will also actually help them auto score those calls and those deals to provide them with information as to how good of a fit that prospect is, how good of an opportunity it is, but also coaching scorecards for sales reps that show them where they're doing well and where they at, what their areas of improvement are. Because the biggest pain point for any frontline manager is to go into every call, watch every recording, and be able to score and comment every call. Attention will do that automatically for you right away, based on your definition as a business of what's good and what's bad, right? No one in the market does that today. Last thing, very powerful, and also that no one does today, is we'll give you insights across what's happening in your business, across your entire collection of calls and customer conversations. So you want to know what are the latest objections that are happening from your prospects, what is going on with competition, what is, what feature requests are happening, any question, anything that matters to your org. Our generalized insights will go across your entire collection of conversations and give you these insights in minutes instead of weeks or months. And we'll show you the data points in the conversations, the transcripts, where these things are being said, right? This is just a complete game changer, and any CRO who starts using this falls in love with the product.
Then where do you want to bring this 5 to 10 years from now? Do you plan
Yeah.
deploying sales agent at some point?
From a financial perspective, as I said earlier, if we don't end up as a $10 billion business, for me, I'll consider that as a failure. From a product perspective, the vision, I like to stay very much close to that and not spill too much about it. But that being said, what I do think about visions in general is it's good for any founder to have a few different scenarios for your vision. But the reality is that, and this is very counterintuitive or non-obvious, is that no one has any freaking clue of what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years, right? Ask any business leader 5 years ago, did you know that ChatGPT was going to change the world the way it is today? Did you think that LLMs were going to be as powerful as they are today? No, absolutely not. No one had that idea. Maybe, I mean, Sam Altman knew, right? But that being said, no one really knew about that. And the same way no one has any idea of what's gonna happen in 5 to 10 years. So, I'll just say when it comes to vision and where you're headed, it's good to have a few ideas in mind, but don't hold that, as the absolute truth, and always be flexible in the way you evolve as a business.
How did Altman had a better window at changing the world or his vision and brought it to tuition than you and I?
I think Sam Altman is one of the smartest guys, in the planet, right? One one theory that I might have on this is that when you're a very successful person and you're working with extremely intelligent people, you end up having a lot more non-obvious insights. You end up having a lot more secrets about the world and seeing things from very far away than most of the people, right? And so Sam Altman, being former YC president, was obviously working with extremely smart people and had access to some of the most powerful brains in the world, right? So he definitely, that definitely gave him, in some ways, kind of a very clear vision as to what could have been accomplished, let's say 1, 2, 3 years from the moment he started OpenAI. And then, as they kept refining their product and their vision, things seemed a lot closer to what they actually were. I actually don't know. You should have him as a podcast guest. That's kind of my thinking about all these people. I think when you think about Mark Zuckerberg investing so much on AR, you know, I'm I'm sure he has his own reasons to think like that, and he has access to a lot more resources and brains than most of the world does. And that is what might be justifying uh his decisions and investments.
So, yeah, various things come to mind here. Like, how do you reproduce that? Like, is it about throwing yourself in the center of San Francisco and Silicon Valley? Is it about being employed by YC? Because Sam had a couple of exits under his belt before that. Then obtaining the president position, I believe it's Gary Tang right now. It's quite a hard feat to do. So is it about starting your startup ecosystem? How do you get to surround yourself with such amazing people? Do you have a system for that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think overall it's that's something that I try to work very hard on, right? As a founder, how do I surround myself with the smartest people around me? Um, I would say that overall, one of the things is always try to save some time every week to meet smart people, invite them to your office if they're around. Um, or if you travel to San Francisco, ask your network who are the smartest people at X or the best people at X that you know, right? When it comes to, let's say, growth, I'll ask someone that I respect a lot, hey, who are the top three growth hackers that you respect, right? Who are the top three engineers who at, let's say, distributed systems or at, uh back end infrastructure or front end and so on, and just ask these questions to the people that you do respect a lot, and they will connect you. They will give you the names, they will connect you, and you'll create relationships along the ride. And um those people will connect you to other people, and always have, I guess, a texting relationship with some of the people that you enjoy connecting the most with.
Love that. Thanks for the wisdom today, Anis. Where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, feel free to add me on my LinkedIn. Don't send me any emails because I will most likely not reply. And if you add me on LinkedIn, don't send me a cold message right away. Let's just stay connected. If you wanna, exchange thoughts or anything like that, happy to do so. If you're trying to sell me or pitch me your product right away, most likely if I haven't heard about it, I will not consider it.